think we are. Let's double check the screen. Yeah, we are live. So, hey, folks, welcome to the Mañana morning check-in. I am super thrilled to have you here. It is March. Let me make sure I got the sound turned off down here so we don't get the echo.
We are. Let's double check the screen.
Facebook's, YouTube's busy. YouTube's busy sending me ads. I couldn't click the microphone button. The YouTube was trying to sell me something. So anyway, I'm thrilled to be here, and I thought I'd come to you from the backyard. The vitamin D is amazing today. We were a little out of pocket with clouds, and I was wondering, well, how's this really going to work out, right? And here's why. I was scheduled to be on a podcast with a guy named Jesse today. Jesse has a podcast where he interviews people all the time, especially about going through COVID and stuff like that. And he had scheduled to have me on the podcast, and it was super cloudy out. It looked like it was going to rain. And I thought, man, I really just want to do something outside with the palm trees and just enjoy the space, just enjoy, just be out. And so I sign in, and he's got problems with his Wi-Fi. First I had the wrong Zoom link, and then he had problems with his Wi-Fi. And then we get back on, we get going. Wi-Fi glitched again. My son lets the dog out, right? So no big deal, right? I got a big giant chocolate Labrador, and he comes out. He's bumping the table, right? So it's going like this, and I'm like, stop bumping the table, dog. So I get him to lay down. Dog next door starts barking. Dog on the other side starts barking. That delivery guy comes up the street, and all the dogs start going crazy with the delivery guy coming up the street. Airplanes are flying overhead. It seemed like they were just like almost hovering over the backyard. And I thought to myself, wow, I wanted to make authentic. I wanted to make something, real and not in my usual workspace that I usually come to you guys to, every day. And I want to do something different. And it sure was different. At one point, everything's calm. Everything's totally calm. And my daughter comes down and looks out the back door, and the Labrador sees her, like person, right? And his eyesight's probably getting a little wonky anyway. He's getting old. And he's got a big, deep bark, and he just goes nuts. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And then all the other dogs in the area just start going nuts because, he's going nuts. And I put him back in the house, and I come back to the pod, and all this is happening during the podcast. And hey, I apologize. I had to put that noise box back in the house. And then we got on with the podcast. Now, here's the really cool part. Jesse, the guy that hosts the podcast, he's just this awesome dude. He asks open-ended questions. He just has a calm, just nice conversation. And he made it easy to share with him. And then as he recounted or summarized the talk that we had over a relatively short amount of time, I was really taken back, almost humbled at what he was able to take away from that conversation. And I'm looking really forward to seeing what the end product is, what he edits down, and what he puts out podcast. But it was interesting. It was like, for all of the things that went wrong out here, right where it had to be, right where the communication had to happen, it seemed like that transaction was perfect. And sometimes people will say things like, well, sometimes the devil wants to screw things up. Sometimes people, sometimes there needs to be a distraction away from what is good. And so I'm hoping that what he comes out with as a finished product is as good as I think it's going to be, and it will help as many people and add value to as many people as I hope that it does, because his whole podcast series is about like bringing hope to people and things like that. So I think that it's going to be a good product. Now, outside of that, you're saying to yourself, hey, he calls this the morning check-in, and I'm pretty sure it's the afternoon. And it is. I've been super busy today. 8 o'clock in the morning, it's Tuesday, right? So 8 o'clock in the morning, I was on with Giver Marketing. Tim Morgan, Stacy, man, they just do such a good job of bringing things together. And, today's subject matter was all about social media, and man, they've got a team member on there that talks about social media who just does a really good job with it and breaks it all down. And so here's what I'm going to challenge you with today. If you're not already part of the Giver Marketing private group on Facebook, I'm going to implore you to go to Facebook and look up Giver Marketing. And there goes another airplane. Uh, Look up Giver Marketing, the private group, ask to join, and man, there's a lot to take away from there. Now, whether you are a marketing agency, whether you are just running your own business, um, there are lots of levels that they talk about, and they do this 30-day challenge where they break things into a weekly message, typically on Tuesday mornings, and they break things down and they just make things make sense. In fact, today they had asked me for my thoughts in a subject about posting to LinkedIn, and it was interesting because I was able to give input to the group, but it was like my interpretation of what other people in Giver Marketing have trained me on. So it was interesting to see that, if you pay enough attention, if you participate enough, it becomes part of your own thinking, and it helps you to communicate in a way that adds value and brings elements of success to the whole picture. And so 8 o'clock was Giver Marketing, right? 9 o'clock, Pedro Deo, right? So Pedro Deo is doing a 5-day challenge. It's called the 5-day movement maker, right? So the 5-day movement maker challenge, he got on today and he was tearing it up, talking about, having a micro niche, right? So there's subject matter, and then there's a niche, and then there's a sub niche, and then if you really drill down, you get to a micro niche. Like who are you trying to serve, right? And a lot of people don't pick that micro niche because they feel like they're going to miss out on this giant web of people, this giant net that they can get the fish from, right? When in reality, by focusing on the right people, they will make more sales and better connections. So let me put this in the terms that make sense, right? Take a look at one of my projects, which is the Power Sports Academy. The Power Sports Academy is directed at owners of motorcycle dealerships that want to train their service personnel to increase parts and labor sales while increasing customer satisfaction. Simple, right? That sounds simple, but let's take a look at how much of a sub niche it really is. So we could say, okay, motorcycles is part of the transportation industry, right? So planes, trains, automobiles, right? Planes, trains, automobiles, motorcycles, boats, all of that stuff. Bicycles. And so when I start looking at how I'm going to focus my business, I can say, well, I teach people in the service industry how to increase parts and labor sales, right? Well, then what is that? It's boats, cars, bicycles, service industry, computers, right? It could be computers. It could be all kinds of stuff. Like I could teach the Geek Squad how to sell people more stuff over the counter. All of that is similar language, right? And all of it is, it's workable from a business perspective. But if you saw me talking to motorcycle dealerships and you owned a car dealership, what would make you think, man, I need to bring that guy into my car dealership and bring in his wisdom? Or let's say it's a heavy equipment supplier, right? So a heavy equipment supplier is going to see my content and go, man, I really need to bring that guy in. He knows everything about power sports. I know he's going to be able to, help my people sell more front end loader buckets, right? So a lot of these parallels, they just don't align where the audience is going to find that value or get that message, right? So just because I'm capable to train in those areas doesn't mean I should train in those areas, right? I want to have a micro niche. So I didn't just go for transportation industry, right? And I didn't just go for the fun stuff, right? RV, power sports, marine, all of that, right? I didn't want to. So you start sub niching down, right? And then, so where is my experience lie? Well, I was the technical trainer for Ducati North America, and I was the publication and training manager for Suzuki, right? So I know that I can be very, very effective with power sports. Power sports is like, Can-Am's, Polaris, Indian, Harley Davidson, Suzuki, KTM, Kawasaki, Honda, Royal Enfield, Ural, right? So we could just take all of these brands and we could say, oh, I can do all of that, right? Well, yes, I could do all that, but where should I focus, right? Where should I focus my energy? Well, I don't focus on Harley Davidson dealerships. Here's why. Harley Davidson has some really good training for people in this area. They call it fixed operations, right? So the type of training I do is fixed operations oriented. And so there is um, a good foundation of work that Harley Davidson already works through. And Harley Davidson typically has Harley Davidson only stores. So I'm excluding them from my main audience. The other things that I don't actively pursue, now I would take them if they're part of another package, but I don't actively pursue electric motorcycles. I don't go after people that are just zero dealers or people that are mission dealers or people that are Energica dealers, right? And here's why. I'm trying to show people how to maximize service opportunities with their products that they represent. An electric product doesn't have as much service opportunity as an internal combustion engine product does. So if someone is, riding a zero motorcycle, unless they crash the motorcycle, they're typically just going to need brakes, tires, and maybe a drive belt, right? Typically. If they need to order a new charger, they're going to order a new charger. There are instances where there's updates that need to be done or a throttle needs to be replaced or something like that, but that's not wholesale at a wholesale level on every owner needs this done. If that's just not common, right? So I focus on internal combustion power sport products. So things like Ducati, BMW, KTM, Honda, Saki, people that are multi-brand dealers that have a lot of these brands under one roof, right? So these are my target people. And I'm looking for dealers that have 2 to 3 service writers and a service manager, right? So now I'm really to niche down, right? So now you take a look at everything that comes down, right? So now I'm not looking for a mom and pop dealership where it's one guy that's, the owner, the salesman, the service manager, and does everything himself. I'm not looking for a store that's that small. I'm not looking for one that hasn't developed past that. I'm looking for dealerships that have a staff. I'm looking for where elements of my communication training and my efficiency training is going to net the biggest gain for that dealer owner. And I'm talking gain like 40-50% increase in parts and labor sales. And I've had a lot of instances where I've been able to double and triple people's parts and labor sales based on training and communication and then efficiencies and processes, right? And so when I was listening to Pedro Adao today talk about having a super niche and being able to niche down to who you specifically want to work with, I was like, this is good. This is really good. And then he talked about challenges and how the benefits of challenges and some of the financial gains that people have made through challenges really happen. And he brought up, he had people that guested on his presentation today. And they were like, yeah, we ran our first challenge and it made this much money. We ran our second challenge and it made this much money. We made our third challenge and made this much money. And it turned out that they were students of Pedro Adao's, but they had actually made more in a single challenge than Pedro ever had. They had a challenge where they made over $1 million, right? And I was looking at this and talking about how we have these super niches all the way down. And then I started thinking about the challenge that I'm running right now, the Challenge Connection, and how I'm trying to introduce a new platform to people to host their challenges on that's away from Facebook. And so you're still using Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and all of these channels to promote the challenge and to show the highlights of the challenge, and maybe even to host the live portions of the challenge, like through your Facebook Lives and stuff like that. Maybe you even do that. But you take the people and you put them in a platform that you have ownership in. And then you run the challenge there and you keep everything organized based on the activity of the challenge. And everything's in one platform instead of sending people to this link or that link or the other link to do the activities of the challenge. And so I'm looking at that as being another niche that I'm gonna serve. And just listening to Pedro do the talk today, it really drove home some elements that I got right and some elements that I got wrong. And one of the elements that I got wrong with the Challenge Connection was I built a really good technical mousetrap. I built something that's super organized and allows people to host their challenges in a way that Facebook just doesn't allow you to do it. And from that perspective, I gave people a great tool. Now, as I'm launching my challenge to show people how to use the product, I realized, especially watching Pedro, and I've just done a Russell Brunson challenge last month, and I keep trying to participate in these challenges to see what other people are doing. And I've realized between Grant Cardone, Russell Brunson, and Pedro Adao, I'm missing the emotional piece. That Facebook Live long form video every day that's like an hour that ties everybody together. And through missing that, I've realized that that's my area of growth. And once I grow past that, love it. All right, folks. My wife is calling. I will talk to you guys later. Love you. Hey, babe. How are you? I'm turning off my Zoom Live right now.